And we're back.
Welcome back, everybody, to the only podcast on the internet that knows that Greenland and Iceland are actually two different countries. Not many people know this, Chris.
No, you're wrong. The written text will show that he said, land of ice, not Iceland. You're wrong.
I beg to differ. No, he said Iceland 4 fucking times. 4 fucking times, Chris.
And we know that he said Iceland because we are doctors.
But not doctors.
I'm Dr. Silverstein.
I'm Dr. Armshaw.
And this week, we are going to talk about things UK and US politically related, including the victory for Keir Starmer at PMQs for the first time in a long time. Andrew Gwynne MP, if you know that name, you probably work where I work, is resigning, leaving the door open to somebody else that you may have heard of. Ooh. There's a social media ban on the horizon in the United Kingdom. So we're going to talk about that. And of course, on the America side of things, we're going to talk about how Greenland will apparently remain green and not red, white, and blue. And
just everything, red and white.
Just red and white. And just red and white. And everything that's going on at Davos, which has been another dumpster fire care of the president of the United States, Donald John Trump. So let's get started with the ongoings on Wednesday afternoons. So if you don't understand what happens on Wednesdays in the United Kingdom, then you don't have a television, you don't have a phone, you don't have a computer. At noon on Wednesdays in the UK, while the House of Commons is sitting, the Prime Minister takes questions from members of Parliament, starting with the leader of the opposition, Kemi Badenoch. And basically since approximately November and a little bit before then, Kemi Badenoch has just turned on the jets and has just been bodying Keir Starmer. Has been absolutely just ripping in him shreds. He's not been looking good. And this is a guy whose leadership has been fraught and is in trouble. To be very clear, his leadership is in trouble. His premiership is in trouble. He's having a rough go of it. But this week, for the first time this year, he's somehow pulled out a victory. In American terms, he definitely hit a triple. Wouldn't call it a home run, but he definitely got a triple.
Honestly, at this point, I think he'll take it. Yeah.
And so here's why. Every week there are 15 questions that are 15 members who are randomly selected. These members then can ask any question that they want of the prime minister because he doesn't have a specific portfolio. And then party leaders get unallocated, basically guaranteed questions. They don't have to sign up for the ballot. The leader of the opposition gets 6 questions. So there are 6 questions, 6 responses. The leader of the second party, or the third largest party, gets 2 questions. And then a singular question is granted over each week to a different small party.
Right.
So it's very, the leader of the opposition has a lot of opportunities just to drill in on policy and drill in on politics or whatever. And this week, Kemi Badenoch opened up the questions with, do you believe that Greenland has the right to determine self-determination, the right to determine who controls it themselves, that they should be free of, interference from overseas American influence? To which he says yes. And the next part of her question is incredibly niche. It's incredibly conservative, as in it's small c, big C conservative party, right? Okay, they've been obsessed with this thing called the Chagos Islands.
The Chagos Islands. Where are those located, Chris?
The Chagos Islands are located in the Indian Ocean.
Right. And so south of Mauritius, then we're talking.
Yeah. Okay. And the Chagos Islands are they're British overseas territory that in the 1960s, I believe, the army or the military forces wanted to use the island for military purposes and forced the local population off the island. And that local population and their descendants have been trying to get back ever since. And there has been a lot of toing and froing and a lot of different conversations over these many, many decades. And one of the results of these conversations is that the United Kingdom is going to hand control of the Chagos Islands over to Mauritius. Okay. And basically there's some kind of money involved where we pay them or something. I don't know all the details because I am not 100%
presumably some kind of reparations or damages are in order for expelling people from their homeland and then using it for a military base, mostly used by the Americans, I understand.
Yeah. So basically, the Conservative Party is up in arms. They're like, this is outrageous. We shouldn't be giving up this land. But the Americans have been completely on board with the kind of the reorganization of how Chagos works up until a few days ago, where Trump decides that what the British are doing. He tweets on Truth. He says what the British are doing in the Chagos Islands is ridiculous and unacceptable. And he says it's
stupid. I think he called it, Chris.
Really,
give the man his due here.
Yes, the great orator Donald Trump.
Yeah,
basically said it was a dumb thing. It was a stupid.
Yeah.
So the Conservative Party pounced on this and said, apparently, last year, the Labor government said, if the Americans change their mind on Chagos, we will change our mind on the deal. And Trump has changed his mind on Chagos.
Right.
But the Labor Party is like, we're not changing our mind on the deal. The deal's at the end stages of this. There's a piece of legislation going through the Parliament right now on Diego Garcia, which is kind of the Chagos Islands, basically.
Yeah,
the main base in the Chagos Islands. So the first part of the question was, do you believe that Greenland should have the right to its own self-determination? Starmer says yes, and then Badnock says, well, why don't you believe the same for the Chagos Islands? And the Conservatives are like, yeah, the Chagos Islands. And this is like their big bugbear. And Starmer turns around and does something I have not ever seen him do. He said, I'm paraphrasing. You realize the only reason that we're talking about this, the only reason Trump has tweeted about this is because he's trying to break up Europe over the subject of Greenland. How have you fallen for this trap? And all of a sudden, and the way that he said it wasn't like his calm, collected that we talked about last week.
Did he show a little bit of, dare I say, steel, Chris?
His face turned red.
Whoa!
His face turned red, and he just
with the fires of justice, no doubt.
And you could just see he's got you. Like, how do you abort, get out of there, red, and so she turns around and she keeps on, because these things are well prepared. There are joke writers. There's all this stuff that go into PMQs, and so she just keeps on with her planned PMQ because she didn't do improv.
Oh no! Oh no, Chris! Oh dear.
And PMQs is like, you mess up there, you've changed your entire party's policy. She has to stay on the track. She can't figure her way out. She can't do the weave. So she's I
mean, it would be a little bit weird if you're like, should Greenland have a say in its own future? But what about Chagos? And then your third question is, so how's the weather?
The third question was is just basically having a go at him, and then basically because of the money being spent on the Chagos Islands, like a deal, then she tried to tie it into the armed forces and basically you're weak on the armed forces, but it's because it had fallen apart. Yeah. Her momentum died. She lost the audience, and her audience is the Conservative Party. And this is why it's important. The last two PMQs that she's had, she's always ended it with kind of a call and response from the conservative backbenches.
Okay.
This is really, really important because Blair used to do this. So he's like, if you were to be like, crime down, this down, that down, and you would say it twice, and then your backbenchers would jump in for the third, fourth, and fifth time you do it. They do not know about the rule of threes.
Oh no. Oh no. Oh, I see where this is going, Chris.
So over the past two times, she would say something, and because her last two PMQs were very political, so she was having to go at him about politics, and so you did this wrong, left, and so they kept up, and it was powerful, and it was embarrassing, and it was brutal to watch. And it's like this gone, that gone, this gone, that gone. That was 2 weeks ago. That was last week. And this week, they clearly planned on doing it again. She gets to the end of her question and she starts the chant. But because she's lost the attention of her party, they don't pick it up in time.
Oh, no.
And when they do, they don't do it with nearly as much power as necessary.
Oh,
and it was just kind of like, it was like you tried to start the wave and four people are doing it. And then it kind of gets to the end of your row and then you try it again. And they're just like, dude, no, we're losing 28-10. No, this is
dear.
bad. So
dear.
that's what's and so you're just like, wow, that's the first time I've seen Keir first off have any emotions in prime minister's questions, but two, he nailed it, and he also positioned himself partially against Trump, but then he got a couple questions later saying, well, if Trump's going to try and tariff us on Greenland, we should start announcing retaliatory tariffs now. And he's like, well, we can't do that. America is our great ally, so there's this, he was on the fence about it, but it was interesting to watch.
This is the thing about Keir Starmer, is that I feel like so much of his political calculus has sort of been based on the idea that he is the Trump whisperer. He's the guy who can sort of like keep Trump on side, and that will be sort of one of the bases of his power, of like his case for governance, right? Is that if he can keep Trump on side, if he can make deals with the guy, then clearly we need someone like him, because that is way better than being at the mercy of a, lunatic orange baboon. The problem, of course, is that Trump is a lunatic orange baboon, and you can't make a deal with him, because every time you make a deal with him, he immediately says, and now I'm changing the deal entirely. Well, and maybe we have World War III, or maybe I give you extra tariffs. So I feel like Keir Starmer has had, and we'll be talking about this more when we get into Davos, I don't want to jump the gun on this, but I do feel like Keir Starmer has started to see some of the political benefits of showing a little bit of spine. Not too much spine, like not overly much spine, but, just a little backbone here and there.
He can't show that much spine because he doesn't have a great negotiating hand. Since the UK has left the EU and basically stuck itself in the middle of the world on its own,
right?
You have to be very careful in how you deal with an unstable, very powerful global player. We have here in the UK lots of things that Trump likes. We have monarchy. We have money here. We have things. If you're an autocracy, you have these
golf
things.
Courses. Golf courses, Chris.
Golf courses that Trump owns. So there's lots of stuff here that that you can use as kind of soft power, which is the UK's big thing. But the EU has a lot more bargaining power than the UK. So I think Starmer and the UK government have just been trying to figure out a way to survive in the middle with it, because you go too far to Europe, you're gonna go through Brexit basically again. You go too far to the United States, you become the 51st state.
Right.
And either way, there's Nigel Garage living in the shadows, waiting for you to make a mistake. Right. So.
Yeah. I mean, I do have to wonder how all this is going to impact the Reform Party, because ultimately the more crazy Trump is, right, and the more that Nigel Farage has to distance himself from Trump, the more he's also weakening one of the fundamental planks of sort of the Reform Party, which is the idea that, this will be, making Britain great again. This will be like the, us declaring, our true power or whatever, but also doing it in accordance with the sort of Trumpist international movements. And I feel like that's harder now that so many of the extreme right parties in Europe are having to publicly denounce Trump, or having to publicly denounce, the threat of World War III. So, yeah.
I think that, the reforms play here is very difficult, specifically because so many of their people will align themselves with Trump and his ideas. You need that kind of probably their money secretly somehow. And Farage is basically, it's hard because, the great patriots, of most I heard this stat just yesterday that apparently, in Denmark, for example, when they polled, left-leaning people and right-leaning people, who would basically want Denmark to defend itself, i.e. Greenland, the left wing, to a man or to a woman said, we need to defend Greenland. The right wing were like, screw Greenland, let America take it. Right.
Wow.
So,
okay.
It's becoming clear that the right-wing movement almost globally, or at least right-wing movement in the West, is now, it may not even be coalescing around a nation, as in it's coalescing around the idea of a strong man, and that strong man ultimately right now is Donald Trump, and your strong man is kind of will be a duke in his empire.
Well, not every nation can have a Hitler, Chris. Sometimes you got to make do with a Quisling, you know. So
well,
there you go.
At least you have fascism. So let's move on to the next topic here. Again, there's this is just interesting. So a guy named Andrew Gwynne, MP, who has been an MP since I think since 2010. I'll have to check that real quick.
Okay,
but so, Gwynne. Yeah. Andrew Gwynne is kind of one of those guys who you always saw in the Commons, and he was always just a person who wanted to be a minister, who wanted to be in government. He was always speaking. He was always doing stuff. He had to resign last February because he was in a group called Trigger Me Timbers. We may have talked about it. And Trigger Me Timbers was a WhatsApp group for kind of MPs in the same area who just wanted to say the worst possible things about everybody. They had a go at Angela Rayner. They had a go at Diana Abbott in both racist and sexist ways, which most people won't even report on. I vaguely remember what they were saying, and none of it I would repeat. It was kind of like an edgelord chat, you know?
Okay, so just because I mean, like this is blowing my mind, Chris, because what you're talking about is MPs who have a career in politics and presumably would like to continue to have a career in politics, who've decided the best thing that they can do is to be edgelords on a WhatsApp group chat and make sure that everything that they're saying is written down for posterity. Is this what you would call a lapse of judgment, Chris, or would you call this like the antithesis of judgment? Like, what's your read on this?
That's a good question. And I think when you find yourself surrounded by legislators, people who are elected, you have to remember that we have an opinion of what we think elected officials should act like and what they should be. And more importantly, that they came into politics just like that. Yeah. And politics is a cross-section of society. And more important than that, you don't always get the smartest people winning the seats. Because you don't need to be a smart person to win an election. You need to be the most popular person. So think about the most popular person in school.
They're just popularity contests, Chris.
Yeah, well, I mean, in a lot of ways they are. I mean, the policies matter, but you know, how many people vote for Nigel Farage or voted for George W. Bush or voted for, you know, those two guys because you think they could have a beer with them? They don't even care about their politics. I mean, obviously they think they're not going to get hurt by them. You know, how many people are voting for Trump because, you know, they think that, you know, they like the man himself.
Or they like the Trump show, you know?
Oh, they like the Trump show, yeah.
But see, this is the thing, right? I think there's a fundamental difference between politicians who are, you know, electable on the basis of their personal charisma, right? And for the record, I'm using charisma in the Max Weberian sense, right? Of something that the crowd bestows upon you, and not a thing that's sort of self-generated, right? Like you're charismatic in politics because the crowd decides that you're charismatic, right?
Yeah. That's really important. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing, right? So, and I think there are some politicians for whom that is the basis of their appeal. And when you have that kind of status, you know, you could say horrific shit, and it may even redound to your benefit because it adds to your sense of I can do no wrong, I can sin publicly, but God will love me, right? So like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like most politicians, no. You're representative of the party. You're there because, you know, you've got a power base that sees you as being someone who's going to work for them, is going to fight for them, is going to, you know, stand up for them and be their voice. You know, it's not exactly transactional, but it is much more along the lines of, you know, it's more instrumental, right? And if you're one of those instrumental politicians, right, who are there just like to do a job, you really can't say horrific shit that, you know, the people who are your power base would find deeply offensive and horrific. Like, oh my God, that's Wow.
There is this vibe, I think, especially amongst politicians who are from, deeply established parties that have long track records of being in government, like, not doing good in government, just, being in government, that like there's like this economy almost of like a work that you can bestow upon people in positions, obviously, not nepotism, but the other word. But
patronage, right?
Patronage. Thank you. It was patronage. And I think that being in that group I mean, I've been in the bar with some of these people, types of people, there's kind of this desire to be as edgy as possible. There's this desire to get people riled up. There's a desire to be the like, oh, that guy's a funny guy behind the scenes. Look at how he changes. Look at the night and day. When he's in the chamber, he's so professional. And out here, he's telling fart jokes and stuff, like that. There is a desire to have these two kind of night and day personalities to show that you are one of the people.
To be fair, Chris, like if the Jekyll and Hyde is like on stage in public, I am Mr. Rectitude, and backstage I'm telling fart jokes, that's charming. That is legitimately charming, and that is, I will stand up for that as like a perfectly reasonable thing to aspire to. I love a fart joke, is what I'm saying.
So do I. They're funny. But if it were just fart jokes, we wouldn't be talking about it. And Andrew Gwynne, right. Secretary of State for Health. But he's not. He's now resigned his position, and he will be stepping down from Parliament, I assume, at some point quickly. Fun fact, you can't resign from Parliament. You have to take up a position in the royal household, which he will be doing. It's being sheriff or bailiff of the Chiltern Hundreds.
Wow.
And it's a position.
Could they not find a nice like bridge for him to live under, since he's so desperate to be a troll?
He will. Well, who knows what he's going to do from now on? He's been out of Parliament for quite a while.
He's resigning to spend more time with the internet, Chris.
Yes, he's resigning to spend more time with his phone while he can. And anyways, his resignation, whilst not surprising, also creates a space for a guy named Andy Burnham to return to politics now, and to Parliament. Andy Burnham is the mayor of Greater Manchester,
right?
And from what I understand, he's pretty popular up there, and he's got a pretty good base of people in that part of the world. And there was rumors about him wanting to become leader of the Labour Party, and Keir Starmer was on maneuvers to try to stop this from happening.
Yes, that's true, actually. But I mean, it's interesting because, of course, it's not like Andy Burnham has no history of, attempting to move into leadership in the party. Back when Jeremy Corbyn first became leader, if you sort of remember, like when the leadership thing was happening, Gordon Brown had stepped down, and there was a real question of this is after Gordon Brown, this is after
Ed Miliband.
Ed Miliband, thank you, was stepping down. And the real question was which direction the party is going to go. Corbyn was sort of like put forward, and he ended up being a dark horse. He ended up like stealing the progressive thunder of winning, which is interesting because up until he made that play, my understanding was that like the sort of, center left wing of the party had thought that Andy Burnham was going to be the guy. He was going to be like the standard bearer for that wing of the party.
Yeah.
And then he ends up like having his thunder entirely stolen by, Jeremy Corbyn, which is an interesting turn of events, Chris.
Yeah, I think that is the kind of the perennial Labor challenge to become more right wing again, as it lurches from the left to the center left and now into the center right. And that's, I think, who knows why and how. I'm not a Labor member, nor am I a Labor politician. Who knows how and why they that Burnham got out and Corbyn turned out to be like one of the main candidates.
I think
definitely worked out well for Labor, obviously.
As someone who was following politics here at the time, and who counted himself basically like at least a soft Corbyn supporter at the time. I think the thing was, this was after the financial crisis. This is when austerity is the order of the day. This is when the Conservative government is deeply, deeply unpopular with the Labour Party in general. And so I think there was sort of like an argument for a greater, stronger radicalism, a greater voice, basically, stand for something, etc. And then Corbyn became leader and then promptly just sort of like spaffed it up the wall. But it's been interesting that Andy Burnham has been in Manchester, like to a certain degree, it seems, on the, because British politics is so centered in Westminster, right? It almost seems like being, the mayor of Greater Manchester is like being out in the sticks, right? It's being like almost in political exile. And so it's interesting that this might be his moment of grand return, you know?
That's possible. And don't forget that the idea of local mayors is quite new in the UK. I don't even really know what all their powers are, but whatever it is that he was elected and I think subsequently reelected to the role. And now there will be a by-election in Andrew Gwynne's seat. Andy Burnham can definitely stand for that election. But don't forget, there are other political parties who can stand for it as well, and in that area, I don't know what the polling is in that area. But let's not forget that reform is at the top of the polls across the board, and so it's not a guarantee that Andy Burnham will be the one who comes out on top.
I suppose that's true, but on the other hand, the man, from what I understand, is quite popular in Greater Manchester, and if you are the local Labour Party and you're thinking, look, we really want to keep the seat, right? We can't have this be a defection to reform. And you're thinking, who can we possibly run? Who do we ask? Or do we try to get on board for this? You got to figure Andy Burnham is one of the top people they would be thinking of, precisely because he's already shown that he can command a majority in that area,
Yeah, but again, that might make sense and it might be logical, but it isn't politics. And don't forget that there's politics both outside and inside the Labour Party. Would I want a potential leadership contender to enter the ring with me, especially as I am massively unpopular? Now, if I was massively popular, who cares? And I think the sign that Andy Burnham, if Andy Burnham does, choose to do this, it's a very clear sign that he believes that he probably has a chance, because if you're a mayor of Greater Manchester, that's not bad. And that's true. You can do that until you don't want to do it anymore. Coming into the Commons is a massive loss of power. It's you have no executive power. Your job is to be in lobby fodder. And so your only job there basically is to get into government, get into number 10 and try to, pull the party to the left again and see if that works.
I mean, presumably what the discussion would have to be at sort of like the highest levels of the party would be, okay, if we're going to get him, if he's going to come into Parliament, he's probably going to be someone who would want to join the cabinet. What can we give him if that's the direction we want to go? And if Keir Starmer's like, no, I can't be seen with a man more popular than me, that would be terrible, and he decides to gank the party for that reason, I think that would not speak very well to him as a politician. It would be sort of, honestly, I think it would probably be an indication of Labour's slow demise. If individual politics sort of takes precedence over, the health of the government and the health of the party. That's usually not considered a good sign.
It's not, and yet here we are.
And yet here we are.
and I lived through a lot of that with the Conservative Party over the past several years. Anyways, let's move on to the next topic. Lots has happened in the UK. Just over the past couple of days. But this is we'll end our UK section with this. All right. In Australia, there has been a new law that is banning under 16s from having a social media account.
Right.
And just yesterday, I believe the House of Lords has entered an amendment into the Children's Wellbeing Bill, something like that, that adds in a provision to prevent under 16s from having a social media account. So what this means is that if this was to go ahead, as a person under the age of 16, you wouldn't be able to open an account. I believe they would use something like age verification technology to make sure that you are who you say you are. So the question is, I have a question now. The question is, do you think, and there's no right or wrong answer, do you think that there should be age restrictions for websites like Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, Chris. I think nobody should be allowed to have a Facebook account who is under the age of 79. I think it's very important that we restrict that to the 80-year-olds and above, because A, they're old enough that the damage is minimal, and B, they're the only ones on Facebook anyway. So really, it's not a big problem, Chris.
I see what you did there. Uh, but yeah, there is a general issue. First off, 80-year-olds are on social media, and man, have they messed stuff up for us anyway.
That's true, actually. That's
in
true.
fact, they're I believe they're, if not the same, if not more susceptible than the youth. Because how many 80-year-olds have you seen, or people, not 80-year-olds, but people who are like in their 50s and 60s, they see this video of some girl clutching a cat in North Carolina in a boat, and they're just like, and they're sharing it, and they're just like, this is so sad. And you're like, that's AI, that's not real. And you cannot convince them that it's not real. I've seen, people share pictures, videos of, rabid liberal black women screaming at noble police officers just doing their jobs, and the police officer whose face is seemingly phasing in and out of existence is standing there with his pride as this horrible liberal black woman screams at him with her eyes bulging out of her skull, sometimes moving down to her mouth and then back up to her eye. And
look, that's a medical condition, Chris. Okay, I won't stand for you. No, I'm kidding.
It's called AI. and the point being is that it's not just under 16s who are easily manipulated. However, under 16s are very much a target by the algorithm.
I mean, here's the thing, right? Is that like social media has been this incredibly powerful thing that we've kind of unleashed on society, and it has had a ton of impacts. And some of that impact has been really quite beneficial. Some of it has been even liberatory. For example, like the Arab Spring, a lot of the protests there could not have happened without access to social media, right? There is real opportunities for social media, I think, to be something beneficial that connects people, that allows people to find others who share their values, who share their ideas, who share their psychoses as well. And we haven't figured out as a society how to deal with that. I think in a sense, right, we haven't developed the societal antibodies to the informational virus that so much of social media represents at this point, right?
I think you have a point. I think that because I look at social media, and we were lucky enough to come up to in a world that was both without the internet and with the internet. And so we
saw that transition. Yeah,
we did. We not only saw the transition, but I think we will permanently have a foot outside of that world, a world where we kind of always think that our phone's going to ring at home, a world where in the back of your head, you're wondering what the answering machine is going to say, right? Like there's a kind of an analog world that isn't everything digital. Like I have a stack of DVDs and Blu-rays, right?
Wow. Okay. All right.
Like nobody does that anymore because everything's streaming. But you and I both fucking know that the power fucking goes out or the internet goes down. And guess what, folks? You're sitting there staring at a blank fucking screen because you bought it. You bought a device that doesn't take a Blu-ray or a disc. So you're just staring at it. What are you gonna do? So
also, if you're purchasing something online to stream, you're not. Like you can't actually purchase it. You have no ownership of it. You're not even really buying a license to use it in the way that you're buying a license to use a DVD, right? Like when you purchase a copy of a DVD of a movie, right? You're not buying the movie. You have no ownership rights over the film. You have ownership rights, however, over that physical thing that you hold with that film on it. And you have a license to be able to watch it for home viewing, which is why they had the whole FBI warning at the start of
to not copy it, to not share with other people. Yeah,
now, that's honestly one of those things. I wonder how many of them even know what that FBI warning is. I think that's the real generational divide, honestly.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, like if you're buying something online, I bought this movie on Amazon, and that means I can watch it whenever I want. Until they stop posting it, at which point you've paid for nothing. Yeah. And they can take it away at any point and you have no legal recourse whatsoever.
That's right.
But you will own nothing and be happy.
You will own nothing and be happy.
As the oligarch said. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, as far as it's under 16s are concerned, there is both a positive and negative. So if you somehow, and again, it's a big question, how you stop under 16s from opening an account. So people who need to talk to people, who like, I feel a certain way, I am a certain way, I don't feel comfortable going to anybody, going to my family about it or going to my friends about it, but I find somebody online. You could say you can go to a chat group or some kind of forum or watch something on YouTube that could help you. At the same time, there is going to be a predator out there who is looking for the exact same criteria, and that's why you have and there are people who've used that to do just absolutely terrible things.
That's true. That is absolutely true.
And also, there's always, and it's because there's always a way to get around these rules. You have to figure out, like, I think that you need to take the time to understand the potential outcomes of the action. Now, the Australian law isn't going to go into effect for a year. If this thing happens, I think you have another year to figure it out as well. But it would have to happen within 12 months. The government has introduced an idea of a 3-month consultation for 3 months, or so. Yeah, 3-month consultation.
All right.
So people can write in, and you can get the positives and negatives of it. But it's a very complicated question. To a person that I know, who will remain nameless,
all right,
basically came into this conversation saying that you have to ban children from using, under 16s from using this. It has to be a ban. And then somebody else said, do me a favor, read up on it. Like, just do some research on the concept and the outcomes in the research. Came back a week later, and he was like, before I read that stuff, I was 70-30. It has to be done. Now I'm 60-40. It shouldn't be done.
Wow. Okay.
So there's a lot of stuff there.
Yeah. It's problematic, right? A lot of this, unfortunately, I feel like comes down to what was once considered to be one of the grand promises of the internet, right? Was sort of anonymity, right?
Yeah.
And if you think back to like sort of Web 1.0, right? The libertarian dream of we'd all be anonymous online. We could say what we really think, and we can, find and create our own groups and all the rest of it, which was lovely. But there, I feel like there was already the danger of, but people could pretend to be people that they're not. You have opportunities for fraud. You have opportunities for, there's dangers that are there, right?
Are you telling me that the king of Nigeria never isn't actually going to be deposed?
I am afraid to say, Chris, that you're probably not going to get your cut of that money. That's probably not.
No.
That's probably not coming to you. I know. But that was one thing, right? One of the things that I think has made the problem much more complex and much more difficult has been, the rise of bots, the rise of AI, and the fact that now so much of what we see on the internet might not even be people. Yeah. Like, so it's I don't know. So like, if there's any way of sort of reining in the AI onslaught that is coming / already here, right? Yeah. Presumably part of it is going to be having some kind of, registration where, in order to build an account, you have to be a human, you have to be a person, and your identity may even be known, even if it is not shared and freely available, right? So, but that's dangerous as well. Yeah. This is a thorny problem.
It's difficult because the age verification systems that are being used are not controlled by the government. They're controlled by private companies.
That is true.
And that is like, I'm hesitant to share my information, even to access, chat on Xbox, because, this company named Yoti, this company called Yoti is just, it's, people say it's okay, but hell, if it goes out of business, it's got my name, my personal information. Just like 23andMe went out of business, and they've got people's DNA.
And in fact, that information was not kept secure. And in fact, people's information with 23andMe was used for all sorts of things that they may not have thought about when they sort of signed up in the first place, like actually catching killers, weirdly enough. But so I will say this though, because I mean, in this country, they've recently introduced a bill so that if you want to access adult material online, you got to do the registration thing. You got to, show who you are. And
it's not just adult material.
No, but that is one of the big things. And it's funnier if I lead with that, right? Because this is building to a joke. I got a thing I'm doing.
Okay.
But so if they are going to make it so that everybody has to register with that, I feel like all the people who watch porn are going to be secretly like, oh, thank Christ. Now, if there's a leak, it's going to, no, I was just on the internet, man. That was just an internet thing. So, that's why I have an account on YouTube or whatever. And so,
yeah. No, yeah, exactly. I didn't mean, I don't know what they were talking about. I accessed from a different area. I was walking in there to get directions on how to get away from there.
Exactly. There you go.
Simpsons reference. Let's take a break real quick, and we'll be right back. And we're back.
That was delightful. So, Chris, I know that we've had our fun. We've talked about all sorts of great things going on here in the United Kingdom, and the joys of social media and what have you. But I feel like we're dancing around the elephant in the room. It's time for us to talk just a little bit about a small town in Switzerland that you may have heard of, a little place called Davos.
Yeah, Davos, the annual rich guy meeting has taken place. I think it's called the International Economic Forum.
The World Economic Forum.
The World Economic Forum.
The WEF.
The WEF.
I know, which should be a funnier acronym. Like there really should be, I don't know, man. I feel like they're leaving something on the table with WEF, the kind of people who, go to these things. If you are not aware, the World Economic Forum, which is basically AKA Davos, is an annual meeting of heads of state, heads of banks, heads of federal banks, heads of just basically incredibly rich people, incredibly powerful people. And they just talk about the state of the world. It's a huge conference. And obviously it's in Switzerland, so it's not, for the average person. And just a side note, Davos, Davos, I did it. Davos is kind of the place. It always starts in January. In 2020, that's when I realized that something probably bad was happening with COVID, because it was kind of the talk of Davos on Bloomberg. Yes, that's right. Actually, I remember at the time.
And because that was going on basically at the very beginning of COVID. And what happens at these events is that they bring in world leaders to ask them kind of hard questions. It's not really a softball place. And, markets are made and killed by this. And obviously that would include the president of the United States. But oddly enough, this year, no Keir Starmer, but there was a Nigel Farage who definitely was there and then was in a very odd position, because let's start with the first subject here.
All right.
Greenland. So Trump went to Davos, but of course everybody's like, okay, so this guy who's threatening war with us is about to pop into fucking Switzerland, and we have no idea what he's going to say, and we have no idea what he's going to do. It's awesome. It's a great time to be alive. And it turns out that, and you heard it here first, folks. I think I said about 2 weeks ago that, this thing is probably, Trump will probably come up with a 2-week excuse or something like that. And he came into Davos. Oh my God. We will talk about the speeches later, but part of Trump's 1.5 hour long rambling speech, he said, I'm going to surprise some people. We won't use force. We won't use force to get Greenland. And so that means that Trump has, for the time being, for now, for this moment in time, backed down to, starting a war over the ice of Greenland, or as Trump kept on saying, Iceland.
I have decided, after careful consideration, not to stick my dick into the light socket. But of course, no promises are made for the future. This is just okay. So I'm gonna organize my thoughts a little bit on this, right? Because Donald Trump has said that he will not use force to seize Greenland, which is good. This is a good thing, because if he had done, it legitimately was flirting with World War III. And as I think we pointed out, that is not a conflict that would have redounded to anybody's benefit. But also, America has some pretty unique vulnerabilities that I don't think Donald Trump has ever thought through. Like, about a quarter of the American military is stationed, outside of the United States, and is therefore basically kind of hostage to becoming immediately prisoners of war and having all of their stuff immediately be, seized by, European governments that are now at war with America. It's one of those things where, so many people who sort of think America is super powerful, and that's where their thinking ends, don't realize that how America is powerful involves having a worldwide alliance that allows it to project force throughout the globe.
Yeah.
You know,
you have to have a lot of partnerships, a lot of people who will allow you to launch your fighters from your Air Force bases in Scotland and in Germany.
To fly over their airspace, to use their territorial waters, to dock in and resupply your ships at their ports.
Yeah.
You know, like, I mean, sure, American nuclear aircraft carriers, like, they don't have to refuel because, you know, they're nuclear.
Yeah.
But all their screening ships, like, you don't have like nuclear powered destroyers. So, I mean, they kind of need fuel. They need to resupply.
Or you need to go home every 6 months or every, you know, however long it takes to drain the gas tank of a Navy destroyer. Who knows? I am not in the Navy. You couldn't tell. But yeah, I think that it's I think that given that the polling for Trump on Greenland was, I mean, below abysmal. It was like 4%.
Seriously, I've seen it get as high as like 9%, I think, in the YouGov polling that just came out.
Okay.
But like, yeah, this is legitimately the thing where a majority of everybody is against like using force to take Greenland, but also a majority of everybody is against taking Greenland. Like, Americans don't want Greenland. Why would they want Greenland? It's a weird thing to want, you know?
So in the interim, there some kind of plan has been announced by the Trump team, or sorry, not by the Trump team, but by you know, in Davos about actually it's not a plan. It just says that, you know, it's a 2-week trick. The theory of a plan is being announced, and you know, it sounds like, you know, there doesn't really need to be a plan, because if you want to put in more troops, you can already do that.
Right.
If you want mineral rights, you have to ask Denmark or Greenland for that.
Which they could have done in the first place. You know,
all of this didn't require the saber rattling the past 2 weeks.
Like, and this is what's interesting to me. Like, the moment when I really felt like, oh, so Donald Trump really has just finally accepted that, no, this is not going to happen, is not when he said he wouldn't use force, but when he said that he wasn't going to do the tariffs. Like,
that's right.
Because that's the thing, right? Because he'd already...
Just sort of continuing a second, in the interim between our last two shows, Trump basically threatened massive tariffs on any country that opposed the American invasion of Greenland.
Exactly, right? And like, a lot of people were saying at the time that happened. This is an indication that Trump is walking back, that this is an indication that there's not going to be World War III. They're not going to go forward with the military invasion of a freaking allied country in NATO, because Donald Trump is now saying, oh, well, you know, this is all, you know, I'm going to do tariffs and what have you. But like, I kind of felt that, like, no, that just means he won't invade until after July, when the 25% hike in the tariffs was supposed to come in, right? The fact that he's backed off of, officially stated that he's backing off of the threat of military force, and that because they're having such a great, you know, agreement that they're going to make a concept of a plan or whatever, that he doesn't have to do the tariff thing either. I think that's the real indication that, yeah, the markets reacted, and they reacted poorly. And when normally, and we talked about this before, you know, like, this is kind of a leitmotif for the Trump administration, but normally when there's instability in the world, people who have money, they invest in things that are going to be stable. It's called the, you know, flight to security, right?
Yeah.
You get out of the stock market, and you get into things like U.S. government bonds, treasuries, which are incredibly stable. You will always get them paid. They are the absolute bedrock of modern international finance. They're the safest investment in the world, Chris. Or they were.
Yeah.
Because under the Trump administration, a few times now, what we've seen is when Donald Trump tried to do the Liberation Day tariffs, and everyone freaked the hell out, and the market's like, oh no, this is bad. When people started selling, they didn't start buying U.S. securities. Instead, they started buying things like gold.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, yeah.
Right. So, and in fact, what we started seeing was, you know, and this is one of the reasons why Trump backed the hell off of the whole Liberation Day tariff, you know, ridiculousness in its most extreme form, at the very least, was that the United States not only saw like drops in like the stock market, it also saw huge spikes in treasury yields, meaning that the government was just going to have to offer a much higher interest rate to get people to buy its
American debt.
Exactly, right?
Which is a huge problem, because America needs debt to pay for itself.
Well, that's the thing. America has been running a massive deficit for quite a long time. It has built up quite a large debt burden relative to the size of its economy. Not crazy pants, not undoable. But like, if it weren't the fact that the United States' whole economy depends upon sucking in capital from the entire rest of the world to pay for all the goods that it buys from the rest of the world in order to maintain the value of the dollar, if there's something that really threatens international capital's desire to invest in the United States, that's a big problem, because then what you're talking about is falls in the value of the dollar, which makes imports more expensive, which increases the price of cost of living in the United States, which threatens, the entire American economic model. So the fact that just recently with Trump, threatening war against the entire fucking world for Greenland, this caused the markets to have another little episode like that, where all of a sudden you had a shift towards gold, you had a shift out of U.S. Treasury bills, you had a spike in the yields. And all of this, I think, is the reason why. It's not that Keir Starmer was nice and knew how to talk to Donald Trump. I don't think it's even necessarily that Europe was speaking with a pretty unified voice of, this is stupid, don't do this.
They shut down the trade talks. They suspended them in the interim.
Yeah. And it's the fact that I think that like all of that signal to the market, oh no, this is real. And if it's real, well, shit, we probably don't want to invest in America. We don't want to take a risk of losing that much money. So
the markets are fickle. The markets are fickle. They're not patriotic.
No.
and they're not particularly, resilient. I mean, as soon as when you saw what was going on with COVID, when COVID became a very real thing, what did the markets do? They collapsed.
Right.
And it's like, well, hang on. I thought that, capitalism was the end all be all. Like, nope. As soon as the going gets rough, the money gets going. And you're all on your own. Thank you.
Yeah.
But we should move on real quick because we have two more things to talk about.
That's true.
But yeah, so basically for now, Greenland at least is seemingly safe. But keep your eyes on it. But we should briefly talk about the other speeches, including Trump's at Davos. And there are 3 speeches that are worth talking about.
Yes, there absolutely are.
And they are Mark Carney's speech, Lutnick's speech, and Trump's speech.
Wait, was it Lutnick or Bessent?
I think Bessent was also in there, but I don't remember what he said. I do know that Bessent gave a speech, but Lutnick gave a speech at a dinner. Why don't we start with Lutnick because it's the shortest one to talk about?
Okay, that sounds good. So yeah, walk us through it.
What's Lutnick's first name?
Oh, his sorry, one second. Howard
Lutnick, who is the Commerce Secretary, He's
he's the U.S. Commerce Secretary. You had it right the first time.
He was So Howard Lutnick, who was a U.S. Commerce Secretary, who is well known for being just kind of a boob. He's the guy who goes on television and with all of the grace of a used car salesman say, the American economy is amazing. You gotta buy what I got. I'm Lutnick. I mean, like when
that was eerie, Chris. That was eerie. It was so spot on.
When you see him speak, it's just like, dude. Like, you could have found anyone else, but you got the guy who was like the commercial for The Wiz. Remember that Seinfeld episode where The Wiz,
No, I haven't seen that episode. Oh no,
it's the one where Elaine dates The Wiz. It's a New York like like technology store called The Wiz, and it's like nobody beats The Wiz, and it's got like this really manic energy. Anyway, Lutnick is also really famous, I believe, for writing a book and citing himself but using a fake name to do it. We have talked about him before. Anyway, Lutnick was at a dinner, and he was given a speech, and basically in the speech he just starts ripping Europe to shreds, and he's having a go at Europe, and he's like, you guys not this, you guys ain't that, you guys ain't shit. And so bad that it made Christine Lagarde get up and leave the room. Why does Christine Lagarde's name matter, Patrick?
Oh, well, she is how do I put this? She's a big deal, right? She's the head of the European Central Bank, is she not?
She's the head of the European Central Bank. It's as if you sent Jerome Powell out of the room, right? Like, this is a person who basically has European interest rates like in her hand, and here's Lutnick just out sitting there like, Europe, you need us, we don't need you. America can do whatever it wants, and she's like, really, I'm out. So, and what that did, because it was such a giant diplomatic fuck up, that they canceled the rest of the event, which means that they didn't have dessert. And sure, just basically, to both children and diplomats, not getting your dessert is such a big deal. Exactly. So that's the first speech. So that's America 0, Europe 1, with some guy just hamming it up on stage and making a total ass of himself. Number 2, Carney.
Let's talk Carney. 17 minutes, and I feel like that speech is going to have such a profound impact on how people understand the times that we're living in. Like, it's really just, it's kind of incredible, right? So for those of you who don't know, Mark Carney is the Prime Minister of Canada, but before that, he was actually the head of the Bank of England.
Yes, he was.
Yeah, so he's an interesting guy. He's highly trained economist. He's incredibly well respected. He speaks French as well, and in fact, he gave the opening part of his remarks in French. Because he's that kind of a Chad. But so this is a serious guy who is not known for being like a raving anything really. Yeah. Calm, considered, clear, unflappable. These are the kinds of adjectives that you might use to describe this man. And his speech was basically along the lines of, the old order is dead and we should not mourn it. And in fact, that's a direct quote. Like, what he basically saying, and another quote, and this is quite a powerful one. This is not a moment of transition. This is disruption, right? This is
a rupture.
And now a rupture, exactly. And so the real question now is not how do we wait this out until America comes to its senses? It's how do we build a better world going forward with or without America? How do we, as middle countries, defend ourselves against great powers who are willing to weaponize and to monetize their own positions and their own power? How do we have a seat instead of being on the menu?
Yeah, the important thing to get from Carney's speech, and everybody was talking about it. He's like, yes, there was an international rules-based order. Yes, we understand that there was some fiction to that order. Yes, we understand that the big boys at the table, applied that order as and when they wanted to, but more or less it worked. It kept the world moving and more or less richer. He says here, the fiction was useful, and American hegemony in particular helped provide public goods, open sea lanes, and stable financial system, collective security, and support for frameworks for resolving disputes. And then he goes on to say, this bargain no longer works. He's basically saying what we said when Trump invaded and stole the Venezuelan president. It's the end of American hegemony. People will no longer look to America and think that it's okay. And obviously, not everybody does this. Obviously, the reach was not, we get it. It's, but like in very general terms, like the American order that has been established since the end of the Cold War is now done. Yeah. And and America killed it.
It's fantastic. America is literally the boy who killed the golden goose, right? In order to get at those eggs that he was sure were just all inside, or that he killed the goose who lays the golden eggs. It's just an incredible own goal to see a country at really not at the height of its power, but very close to, right? In terms of its ability to, project power internationally, to benefit economically from the global order, an order that the United States itself was instrumental in setting up after World War II.
And maintaining.
And that has made America the richest country that the world has ever seen. It's insane. And to take all of that and to throw it away because you want the Nobel Peace Prize and they won't give it to you. So you threaten war with the entire world.
And just to be clear, it is no longer a theory. Trump wrote a message to the president, to the King of Norway, or to the Prime Minister of Norway, and said, "You didn't give me the Peace Prize, so I guess I don't need to care about peace."
Yeah.
How fucking crazy is that?
It's absolutely insane. And it's even more insane when you consider the fact that the Nobel Committee is not run by the Prime Minister of Norway. It's a private organization. It's like saying, will I declare war on America because I didn't win an Oscar?
Yes, it's exactly like that.
It's completely insane.
The American government didn't give me an Oscar, so I guess I'm going to nuke Germany.
Right. And then somebody saying like, well, okay, but you realize the Oscars, that's run by the Academy. That's not run by the American government. And then saying, oh, the American government is like really in charge of it. It's like, no, you fucking child. That's not how things work.
And speaking of fucking children, Trump's speech.
Ah, yes. It's time to get into the real mouth of madness, isn't it?
I mean, I think it is important also to take note of Trump's speech. So Carney's speech was 17 minutes long. Mm-hmm. Trump spoke for 1 hour and like 20 or 30 minutes. And it was not a speech that made any sense at all. I listened to most of it because obviously people were listening for Greenland stuff. Is he going to kidnap any other heads of state? Is he going to just... There was one line in the speech I do remember. And he said... If it wasn't for us, if it wasn't for America, you'd all be speaking German right now. He said this in Switzerland. There are four languages people speak in Switzerland: Romansh, French, Italian, and fucking German.
Yeah, and German is the spoken by the largest chunk. Interestingly,
it's spoken by the largest chunk. There are a bunch of people there who still speak German. It doesn't make any fucking sense to walk into fucking Switzerland and say, if it wasn't for me, you'd all be speaking German. Because he's like, if it wasn't for me,
it's especially because
that was just one line of his speech.
Oh, it's a bit fucking rich that this, white supremacist, rapist felon who is currently packing his administration with Nazis, right? And I'm not saying that to like be mean. I'm saying that because he has hired a bunch of people who, have expressed extreme far-right, anti-Semitic, and racist attitudes, and who, they just put out a tweet, about
Greg
Greenland.
Bovino. Oh, sorry. We have so many.
We can talk about Bovino's fashion choices later, right?
Yeah.
His little SS cosplay. But they put out a freaking tweet basically, saying which way Greenland man, which is really interesting. Because that's a deliberately play off of a Nazi book called Which Way Western Man, written by a Nazi. So, it's a little bit goddamn much for Donald fucking Trump to use that particular line when, if he'd been alive in the 1930s, that man would have been a member of the Bund. There's no doubt in my mind.
The armband would have been around his tan suit.
Oh, absolutely.
So, there's no real reason to analyze his speech because there's nothing to analyze. It is as if a person came in and just started basically it's like grandpa walked in and just started talking, and he didn't stop talking. And everyone in the room was just kind of like, you could just see like, what's going on? Why is he still going? And he was, he was just like, and another thing and this, that, and the other. And he's like trying to play the crowd for laughs, because Trump is like this failed, shitty comedian. He wants to be a performer. He's obsessed, just like Kim Jong-il was with fucking, performance and motion pictures. Like he hosted the Kennedy Center Honors, I think.
Yeah, he sure did.
So I'm like,
he sure did.
So he clearly likes to play the crowd for gags and stuff. And people weren't really doing it. And at the end of it, you just had giant question marks at the end. But the only thing people really cared about was that he said, we're not going to invade Greenland. But you could always see, how when you get a fortune cookie and you read the fortune cookie and you add in bed to the end of it, I think that you should always add to the end of Trump's decisions today.
Yeah.
We're not going to invade Greenland today.
Yeah. No, I think you're absolutely right. What people should be talking about is the extremely racist shit that he said, because he said some extremely racist shit in that speech of his, right? Because, for example, he's been talking about how Somali Americans roll low IQ for ages, right? Which is, let's be very, very frank here, that is a racist statement. There's no way to understand that other than as this group of people are inferior on the basis of their very identity, right? He talked about how he's really proud that his family is European. His father was 100%. His mother was 100% Scottish, and his father was 100% German. And now he looks at Europe and he doesn't even recognize it because they've imported all these inferior cultures without governments. It's just what it is. It's like 1920s level racism. Like coming back.
We are going back, and I think that the idea is to go back to the 1800s, to the late 1800s, to the Gilded Age again. We don't have much time left, so what do you want to cover as far as the racism is concerned?
Oh my God! Well, no, I like go read the transcript, go watch the thing. You'll see it. The man just says ridiculous racist shit. And obviously. Oh, and also I think he does refer to Greenland as Iceland 4 fucking times.
He consistently called it Iceland in a way that if Joe Biden had done it, it would be the news.
Yeah. Well, it should be the news, because the news is that that's not a mistake you make because you've gone up a little bit. This is a territory he's been talking about for months. And he's been talking about how we need to own it and acquire it. And he threatened war with the entire fucking world over it. And now he's conflating it with Iceland, which is a very, very tiny island in comparison, right? This man is not well.
Obviously.
He is clearly falling apart at the seams mentally, he has to go. And I will just say, now that I'm on my high horse, and it's a very high horse indeed, Chris, is that
I can hardly see you up there.
I know, right? But so thank God for the microphone. But basically, at the end of the day, what has happened here over the last 2 weeks? Donald Trump has blown up the Western alliance. He has shattered American legitimacy and trust. He has fundamentally weakened America in ways that will play out over the course of decades. He has ended the moment of American hegemony, and he has done it all in exchange for exactly fucking nothing. No tariffs, no war, no Greenland. Nothing we couldn't have got by asking nicely 3 months ago, and Europe would have been like, oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, let's have more troops in Greenland. Defend against Russia. Fuck yeah, fuck Russia. That would have been so easy.
But instead, he shat all over the bed. Finally, we need to discuss the last thing that happened at Davos today. We are recording this on Thursday, the 22nd of January.
What a year it's been.
What a year it's been this week. And we have to talk about the Board of Peace. The Board of Peace. Now, we saved this to the end because if we had done it at the beginning, we'd still be talking about the Board of Peace. And I don't want to keep you here for another hour.
We got to discipline ourselves at least a little bit on this.
A little bit, yes. The Board of Peace was originally conceived as a way to manage Gaza. And the Board of Peace was supposed to have people on it like Tony Blair, which it does. Basically, the idea was to rapidly regrow and rebuild Gaza and try to have it stick to the terms of the ceasefire, which we aren't talking about Gaza anymore, but it's still happening. People are still getting killed. The journalists and children are still getting killed in Gaza as we speak. And yet the world isn't talking about it because there's a, in quotes, ceasefire. The people who were named to this, the original Board of Peace, as it was kind of promoted by the world, were people like Steve Witkoff, who is this businessman who's running around trying to save the world. Jared Kushner,
mostly by doing whatever Putin says.
Yes, exactly. Jared Kushner, who was Trump's son-in-law, married to Ivanka.
Yeah, which is, by the way, the diminutive form of Ivana.
Oh,
so it's like it's like Joni. It's like
I see.
Yeah, it's the Slavic equivalent to Joni.
Oh, so that's the one nice thing. Tony Blair. So Tony Blair is on this board. So I mean, the Middle East and Tony Blair. I mean, there's no history there.
He'll do great. I'm sure he'll do great. This is all fine.
Yeah, but then I kept on seeing headlines that didn't make any sense. Like Javier Milei has joined the Board of Peace, and Viktor Orban has joined the Board of Peace, and Benjamin Netanyahu has joined the Board of Peace, and all these other countries are now joining the Board of Peace. And so I had to look it up yesterday, and I found the charter of the Board of Peace, and basically they're trying to replace the United Nations. It has nothing to do with Gaza.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. basically, this was something that the UN put forward as, you're right, the way to deal with, the aftermath of the war in Gaza, right? To solidify things. And what's happened is that Trump is like run with it and now written up a set of rules that make him the head of the Board of Peace forever, Chris. Like, not the president of the United States will hold the chairmanship forever, but Donald Trump will be the chairman forever. And
Article
chairman,
Article 3.2 of the charter. Donald J. Trump, not the American president, not the head of state, not the chair. Donald J. Trump shall serve as the inaugural chairman of the Board of Peace, and he shall separately serve as the inaugural representative of the United States of America. So he has two positions. He both represents the country, but he is also the chairman, and that's very, very important because the American representative can be somebody else at some point, but the chairman is still Donald Trump, not the president, but Donald Trump, the person. Then the second one is the chairman shall have the exclusive authority to create, modify, or dissolve subsidiary entities as necessary or appropriate to fill the Board of Peace's mission. This means that Donald Trump has given himself the ability to create all these other subsidiary businesses. And don't forget, in order to be on the Board of Peace, you had to pay, apparently, Donald Trump $1 billion. Because nobody knows.
Chris, now, I'm going to take slight issue with this because it's not if you want to join, you have to give him $1 billion. Because you see, the thing is that as chairman of this group, it's up to him to determine who is a member and who isn't. And he can expel you at any time, you see.
That's right.
But if you want to be a permanent member of the Board of Peace, then you got to give him $1 billion. He can still kick you out anytime he wants, but you can give him $1 billion, Chris. And that's in exchange for. I'll come in again. Let me try that again. It's
safely back to one. Everybody's safely back to one. Like, this is the problem. So, I mean, the Board of Peace, which basically establishes its own rights to exist internationally. Like, it doesn't have like any kind of anchor in any kind of other legal reality. It's just legal itself. It assumes its own legality, which is a huge issue. But they invited Putin to be a part of this thing.
Of course,
they invited Vladimir Putin.
So much for peace, Chris.
And Vladimir Putin's like, I'm thinking about it. Also, I need $1 billion. So, and Trump's like, well, why don't you just take it from one of your frozen accounts that you've been sanctioned over? And so, I mean, like, this thing is filled with nothing but dictators and and like
zing. Oh my God.
The permanent members. None of I haven't done the math on this, right? I haven't looked at each country here because some of these might be democracies, but that is I'm looking at these countries and I'm like, there are some purported democracies. Israel's on here, and that's a democracy.
For now, give Netanyahu a little bit of time. He'll work out the kinks in that.
Argentina is ostensibly a democracy.
That is true.
Egypt, I don't know. Like it is definitely competitive authoritarianism.
I would find it very hard to classify Egypt as a democracy. I got to tell you, like, like this is. My God, it's really a situation where apparently they asked 50 different countries to join, and I think 19 have said yes so far. And if those numbers are in fact the case at this point, I mean, I'm going to say this is looking a little bit like a bust for him, because it really doesn't look like any of the other major powers are like champing at the bit to get in on this. This just sort of seems like the Donald Trump Appreciation Society, President Donald J. Trump, like. So I don't know.
I'm a bit more concerned about it, specifically because like it's trying to rival the UN. However, it's missing. So back when yesterday when I was looking into this, the UK had not decided on whether or not they're going to participate.
Right.
Now, today, Starmer has said he's not going to participate. Italy isn't participating. Germany isn't doing it. France said fuck off. Norway isn't doing it. Slovenia, Sweden. The United Kingdom. Now, people have been invited. I'm sure some of these people haven't. Like the Vatican has been invited for some reason.
He'd love the Pope to give him $1 billion.
Exactly. I mean, and so I think that they're clearly trying to create the the Legion of Doom. Which is to counter the Justice League.
It is. They can meet in a giant weird Darth Vader helmet that rises out of the swamp. It's going to be great. Like seriously, this is. We should really understand this. yeah, this is the fascist international, you know?
Oh, and also don't forget this last part, because they had the big, inauguration ceremony today, the signing of the charter, and the seal, from what I can tell, of the Board of Peace. You know how the UN seal is kind of the world from the North Pole?
Yeah.
And it has the wreaths around it for peace.
Yeah.
This, the seal of the Board of Peace is basically North America.
Awesome.
It's just
awesome. That's
with a little bit of South America on the bottom, because it's about hemispheric politics.
Venezuela, I'm sure. And so
definitely has Venezuela.
Oh my God. Like this is how to put this? Like, okay, so it's just, you know how with Venezuela, like one of the things that's happened aside from like Donald Trump is like allowed Delcy Rodriguez to continue to be president. The regime continues, even though Maduro has been extracted, right? So, and Machado, of course, give up her, Nobel Peace Prize medal in exchange for exactly nothing from Donald J. Trump, right?
Jesus, she keeps on doing it. Anyways, go ahead.
I know. But so part of the way that this, mafiosi enterprise works is that now Venezuela can give oil to the U.S., which will then sell the oil and then take the money and put it into an account in Dubai, where it will be used, according to Donald Trump, for the benefit of the people of the United States and also Venezuela. But that money is going to an account in Dubai. It's not going to the U.S. Treasury. No one knows what happens to that money. This is, so like a cynical person, Chris, and far be it from me to be cynical, might see this as Donald Trump stashing billions into his own little secret accounts that he can access once he's no longer president, or if he has to flee the country.
Or if he has to flee the country. Yeah. I mean, this is very, very weird. I mean, I think we need to take just 2 minutes here and just think about the weirdness of the last couple of months and how much money kind of openly is flowing into Donald Trump's control. That he is telling you, he's like, I know I'll control the oil money, and you have to pay him $1 billion to be in this Board of Peace.
That's theoretically going to be used. It theoretically would be using that money to reconstruct Gaza, but the fact that every Western European country has been like, oh no, we're not joining this. That means that they know there's no guarantee that money goes to Gaza whatsoever. Like this is. I mean,
the only guarantee is that it goes to Trump.
Yeah. This is basically the most corrupt government America has ever had, and we have had some corruption. We as a country have dealt with periods of real corruption, right? Yeah. And it's all put entirely to shame by this president and this administration and this regime. Like we are seeing the looting of the United States. We're seeing the looting of where it's a. I'm going to use one last mafia term here, right? Those of you who've seen Goodfellas, you're going to know what I'm talking about when I say bust out. So the way a bust out works, Chris, is that
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Right? Yeah. So like a restaurant owner, he gets into debt with the mafia, and so the mafia's like, don't worry about it, but we're going to take some ownership over your restaurant. We're going to run things for you, and then what you do is you buy a shit ton of ingredients and stuff using the accounts of this restaurant. You borrow a ton of money that the restaurant will owe. You use it to buy a bunch of stuff. You don't sell it as, part of like the restaurant. You sell it on the side because basically you're just using the restaurant's credit to steal everything you can. And then you let the whole thing collapse.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's basically asset stripping. It's a way of being able to, turn everything about an organization or an institution into money for you, and then let everybody else pay the bill for it.
The key point about the bust out is that the first thing that has to happen is that you have to get in hawk to the mafia. Yeah. You have to have asked them or have them done something for you. And then when you can't pay back, or they have you basically by the short and curlies, then they're like, well, in order to pay us back, we're going to take control of part of your business. And then they use your business's credit to then effectively for free take the stuff that your business bought, and then they sell it at a massive discount because they paid nothing for it.
Yeah, it's all profit. It's all profit, baby.
And when your business, this is actually from The Sopranos, when your business runs out of credit and when your business runs out of the capacity to run itself, you destroy the business, and they take the insurance money.
That's the bit I was missing. I forgot about that. This is why I wouldn't be a good mafiosi. You
forget about the end game of all of this is to destroy the life of the person who decided to trust you, and that's what's happening to America. And that's what could possibly happen to the UK. Nigel Farage and Reform want to play the exact same game that Trump is playing here, only they don't have nearly as much power on the global stage. They could do so much damage locally. And once they're in, they're like you have now put yourself in hock to them, and they can start using you and the country as their personal money machine. And you're just sitting there holding a burning building at the end as they fuck off to Qatar with fucking Trump.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sorry, Dubai. I should have said Dubai, Qatar. Can't remember.
I mean, I feel like I don't know. I mean, like the UAE has many ports to call, Chris. There's you don't have to go to Qatar. You don't have to go to Dubai. You could. I don't know anywhere else in the UAE, actually. Like, I think those are like the two cities that I know of in the UAE. I am not super up on my Arabian geography, I got to tell you.
We do have to get better at that because we may have to know where they're going to serve international warrants.
That's true. That's a good point.
Now, let's end it with Patrick's biggest news of the day, which is that he is. Go ahead.
I have done something extraordinary. I have finished Death by Lightning, which is a
OMG.
I know, it's a show on Netflix. It is 4 whole episodes, Chris. So, so obviously it took me several weeks to do it because I am really bad at watching TV now. Oh my God. I've gotten so bad at watching TV. And it's not like I'm, fucking listening to Mozart and doing calculus equations in my head to entertain myself. No, I'm so spoiled from social media and the internet that it's destroyed my ability to binge properly. It's really terrible. But for those of you looking for a really interesting show with some fantastic acting and that is shockingly relevant to politics today, I recommend Death by Lightning. This is the story of the assassination of the American president James Garfield by Charles Guiteau, who was a bit of a lunatic who thought because he gave 2 speeches for Garfield during his presidential campaign that therefore he should become a consul to France. And then when he didn't get that job, decided to just murder the president. It's a hell of a story. Matthew McFadden, if you know that man, and you absolutely should. He was on Succession. So he plays Guiteau, an absolutely fantastic performance, amazing to watch. Michael Shannon, the most intense actor in the history of acting. Michael Shannon. He plays Garfield. He plays him really well. It's very, very good stuff. A special shout out, however, to Betty Gilpin as Garfield's wife, doing amazing work with otherwise a very small role. But just wonderful stuff. And as Chester A. Arthur, Nick Offerman, of Parks and Rec, just being the best of all possible Chester A. Arthurs. If you'll see it, you will agree with me. If you don't see it, you'll have no idea what I'm talking about. But if you have a notes subscription or you got a friend who has one, this is worth your time. Go check it out. It's good stuff.
That's great.
I'm not getting paid by them.
I'm not, and that's a great balance because the Bears did not win the divisional playoffs. I believe they lost to the Rams, but they had a good season. And Indiana University won the national championship, so that's a college football. So that's good.
Look at that. All right.
I know. So a little bit of good news amongst all the stuff happening in the world, but we've rambled on for long enough. Hopefully, no one's in the A&E this week. And as always, I'm Dr. Silverstein.
I'm Dr. Armshaw,
and we are doctors,
not doctors.
Good night.